Hi, and welcome to Coco Disaster. I'm Chorps and Xain.
And I'm Xain Zero.
And it's time to ring in the new year, or at least the new year of anime.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. And, we're right after the holidays, we're going right into brand new anime. And while it doesn't seem like as many shows are coming out, there's still plenty of ones that we're interested in, and certainly that we're going to want to talk about.
Yeah.
It is a stacked season despite its like smaller selection of shows.
I think it's a good selection though.
Oh no, for sure. And definitely like there's a good breadth of shows in this selection. Like it's not all just like one type.
Yeah.
Which I think is definitely going to be a benefit to it. But first, before we go into that, time to start with the news, things that we need to catch up on since the last time we recorded. And the first one I wanted to bring up was one that was news that dropped today, and that is in our continuing effort to cover every anthropomorphization project, it's time to cover AotY Classic, work concentration timer with classic young men. So you may remember a couple years ago when they announced Moevation. Do you remember that?
No, I do not.
Okay, so Moevation is a Japanese app where it's sort of like a dating sim, but instead of doing dating sim stuff like, you know, making selections and stuff, you pick a girl and she gives you a workout regimen and then asks you to do it.
Oh, that! I remember that.
Yeah, that's Moevation, yeah. So this is sort of like that, but the idea is instead to, it seems, cater it to women, and also it's a concentration app where the idea is you give it a timer of how long you want to not be distracted by your phone, and it'll play classic music based on whatever boy you pick. All these boys are anthropomorphized versions of classical music.
Oh, I thought you were about to say classical music composers, and I was going to be like, oh, we already have that with Classicaloid.
No, it is not Classicaloid. This is specifically the songs. Like, you know, this is the character based on Beethoven's Symphony No. 9, or this is the Clair de Lune boy.
Oh my god.
And so, what it is you set the timer, and for that amount of time, it'll play that particular song. So, like, you pick Clair de Lune, and you set it to, like, 30 minutes, you get 30 minutes of that classical piece. And the idea is, if you don't touch your smartphone within that period of time you give it, you unlock character episodes. So that you basically do the dating sim thing, but the dating sim thing is explicitly not touching your phone or interacting with it.
This sounds like it could be like a free-to-play game or something.
Yeah, it is. It's like a free-to-play, but you can't give money explicitly by design. Like, maybe you, like, buy characters or stuff, but it's like, you know, specifically it's like, no, just don't touch your phone. This is how you're going to learn to, you know, do your work or sort of, like, reduce dependence on your smartphone.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and it's like, it's nothing quite like we've seen before. Like, it's not quite Moevation where it's like, here you're gonna learn how to work out, you nerd. This one's specifically like, you know, here's to help concentration when you really need to be working. And the detriment is you don't get to, like, see these boys interact, which there's totally an audience for this. Like, I get it. It's wild, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Then some other stuff. We've had a lot of live action show announcements. Not specifically on the Hollywood side, though we did get our first look at James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez's Battle Angel Alita movie coming next year.
Featuring big anime eyes.
Ginormous anime eyes. And, like, you know, that's out, and that's coming pretty soon, but we also have a live-action Netflix series for Erased coming out. In fact, I think that just started the 15th, so, like, right before we're recording this.
Yeah.
And it might be debuting in English as well. I know it's more than just in Japan. Which that, you know, it could be neat. I feel like live action makes it a lot harder for certain shows, but Erased is grounded in a reality that makes it feel like it would benefit from it, because it's very much just sort of like a crime thriller.
Yeah, it took me a bit to remember what it was, but yeah, I feel like this is a show that would work for live action.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's not a lot of, like, real out there stuff you would have to do, unlike the Netflix live action Mob Psycho 100 show, which is coming out in January. I feel like that's going to be really hard, not only to adapt, but also to follow up the anime.
Yeah, because the anime had a huge amount of style for it.
Right, like the anime was huge on style and effects and sort of like really, took Mob's signature style and like fleshed it out for animation. But like, yeah, I don't know how that works in live action. That one feels a lot harder to pull off, and I don't know how that's gonna go.
Yeah.
Or if it's even gonna like cover the same stuff.
Oh, speaking of Mob, it's coming to an end soon.
Oh, right. I almost forgot that, he's, one's finally getting around to finishing that up, which, that's interesting, because I know it started a while before One Punch Man, sort of like the sleeper hit of his career.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's gonna do. I wonder if they're gonna do more anime out of that then.
They probably are. It feels like it would work really well as just a second season, the rest of the content.
Yeah, and like, I mean, that first season did pretty well, so I feel like, not following it up. Then a couple other live action. We have a live action Kakegurui series coming to Japan, which the content would not be hard to do. The acting, I feel like, is the hard part of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, when you can draw everyone having horrible overreactions, like, it's different than having to, like, simulate that with your real face.
I mean, I was just gonna say, the voice acting from that show was really good.
Right. It's gonna be interesting to see, for sure, if we ever get a chance to see it.
Yeah.
And last year, Konami announced that they were trying to do a bunch of movies based on their game properties. And first up, they're giving Contra a live-action film and television series in China.
Like an animated series?
No, I believe it's also a live-action television series.
Okay, I'm kind of interested in how you would do live-action Contra.
Yeah, I guess it would be sort of like all of those, like, pulpy, like, 80s action movies, like your Rambos and stuff. The things that it seems very heavily inspired by. It'd be interesting to see what they do with that for a film and a show. Like, what are the distinctions here that you're making, and, like, what content is there to pull from Contra besides, you fighting soldiers that slowly turn into horrible aliens? Like, what a weird first choice from Konami. But I guess, like, oh, God.
I was gonna say, did the Castlevania stuff show not count?
Oh, you're right. I had almost forgotten that was Konami. You're right. They did do that, though I don't know how much they were attached to that, since it's, like, pretty heavily divorced from its content. But that, that actually does give a good projection of what they could do with something like that, with content like that. Because I'm sure Contra had, like, a story in the manual or whatever.
Yeah, I suppose it did.
Yeah, that Castlevania Season 2 is supposed to be coming sometime soon.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully that's neat.
Yeah, I hope that's gonna be good.
And then, so here's a Hollywood one that I don't get. So, the writer of Thor Ragnarok and the producer of the original Thor movie, Craig Kyle, revealed that he is developing a live-action television series based on Gare, which is like it's a very like obscure pick to pull from. Like it's sort of like Shaman King-esque. It's one of those sort of like shonen series that's like about fighting spirits and people who can see them and like exorcising demons.
It feels like it would have had to been the director's choice then.
Yeah, like this feels like it would be sort of like a thing where, and this is like a passion project.
Yeah, I feel like that would be the case.
Yeah, and like the keynote or whatever from his appearance where he announced this talks about how much he's really into Ga-Ray, and claims that he thinks it has the potential to be the next Game of Thrones, which is incredibly bold.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And it seems like the dude's way into like Japanese media and bringing it over. So what do we have now? We have the Cowboy Bebop TV series. We have the One Piece one. We have this. Like, there's so much happening in the world of like American-made anime adaptations that I just don't know what the end. Like, is this a bubble that's going to burst? Are we going to finally have like a hit? I don't know at this point.
I'm just surprised that it's like this is a trend now.
Yeah, like especially like TV series. Like you would have never seen like a TV series before this. And I wonder what the changes from that to like, you know, full feature films, because I feel like it can't cost less, right? Like,
I don't know.
We'll have to see how that goes, because I feel like 2018 is going to be the year where several of those appear and finally start airing.
Yeah, for sure.
So who could say? Then we also have the first official English Toho game releases coming next year.
Oh, real? Well, I guess mainline Toho would be the right word for it, not... Because there have been Toho spin-offs released.
Right, well, yeah, first Toho's made by Zune. Because I think the newest game, whatever Toho 16 is going to be called, and the most recent fighting game spin-off are getting official English releases on Steam via Playism.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's supposed to be, I think, early 2018?
Nice.
For both of those. And it's just weird to think about, given that, like, it's had such, like, this status and sort of, like, you know, it's been sort of a cult property for so long, because they have such dedicated fans willing to translate all of it, to finally get, like, a real deal official English translation almost feels weird.
Honestly, I think it's pretty cool that there's enough of a fan base in the US for this to happen.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's really cool. It's just also something I would have never expected. But I guess Playism as a company has been doing a lot of work to bring these sorts of games over, like things that we wouldn't normally see.
Yeah.
You know, it's a cool company bringing over like real niche stuff, and nothing says niche quite like Toho. So it'll be cool to see like what the quality of that is and what that means going forward. Like if this does well enough, which I assume it would, since this is the time for fans to shine and really get that big. And I wonder if, like, I don't know, we're going to start seeing more like English doujin circles doing like arranged CDs or something. Like, what happens to the fandom when suddenly it becomes way more accessible? So then there's also another game release coming, or at least like a Kickstarter for a localization of a visual novel. Did you ever see or hear about that visual novel where you date Nikolai Tesla, but he's like a cyberpunk steampunk anime boy?
I feel like that sounds familiar.
Well, good news. We're bringing over one where it's a young, cute girl, Isaac Newton, that we date.
Okay.
And this is called Newton and the Apple Tree. And I don't know much about the content of it, but it feels like there's subgenres within subgenres. We're getting plenty of material released in English, which is just like, this is my fan fiction about a real life person, and it's fascinating and funny and also just a little weird.
I mean, I'm familiar with the Fate franchise, so...
I guess you're right. Fate originated that cool style, but I feel like this one is even more explicit about it, and it's just like a wild sort of thing. Like it's a like a time travel thing where it's, oh no, we time traveled and Isaac Newton's a girl in this universe and they have to figure out how to get back.
Great.
Oh, incredible. Oh, speaking of weird things. Oh man, Batman Ninja. Remember did you see the
shit,
Batman Ninja trailer?
I saw that.
Oh my god. So Batman Ninja is a CG animated movie coming out. I think people who worked on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure are working on it. Like people who are doing animation stuff are like directing it. I think screenwriter is like Trigger and Dynax alum. I think the character designer is the dude from Afro Samurai. Like
it is.
Oh man, what an incredible group of people to be working on this whole thing. And the music is by the person who did music for Psycho-Pass and Diamond is Unbreakable.
That's really good.
Yeah, so apparently the project is already 3 years in the making, so I assume we're going to see it relatively soon, right? Like within the next year.
Yeah, I assume so.
But so Batman Ninja is, I think it's an isekai thing. I think it is a travel to another world story.
Yeah, it is. Batman gets transported to feudal Japan somehow.
Right. And so Batman wears samurai armor and I guess fights a ninja clan that's run by the Joker. And he's got a motorcycle still, which is awesome. This is... Man, this... I don't know how to feel about it yet, but all I can think of is like, man, this is cool. It's the only thing I can like process about this.
I was gonna say, this is really stupid and good, and I want to see it.
Yeah, like, and like, the style's actually kind of cool as far as CG goes. Like, it's a little limited animation, but like, it's got a feel to it that's like very distinct, and I think is like kind of pulling the whole absurd thing together.
Yeah, I think I think for better or worse, it's going to be a thing that people will remember.
Yeah, and I wonder if this is the sort of thing that gets like dubbed, right? Like, are they going to show this in like American theaters too and have like a dub attached to it for Ninja Batman?
I hope it gets a dub.
Oh man, that would be so good. Like, man, is there even a Batman Brave and the Bold still isn't going. I don't know if they have like a Batman animation crew right now. So I don't know who they get for this, but imagine, if you will, they bring back Mark Hamill for one more job, and it's Batman Ninja.
He can't escape.
Oh, incredible. Just everything about it seems like over the top in a way that like works.
Yeah, for sure.
In other film news, we have a My Hero Academia original story film coming out in summer 2018, which is surprising, given that in 2018 they're also doing another season.
Yeah, I'm curious if Horikoshi is doing the story for this one.
Yeah, it doesn't say who's writing the original story, but I think it is Horikoshi, or at least like he's like overseeing it in some way.
Nice.
So it'll be interesting to see, and it seems like it's like canon where he talks about like it showing like an unrevealed past of a certain character, and of course focusing on Class A, but like, you know, there's not a ton of information about that out, but this is the year for My Hero Academia, I guess. Like, that it's not only getting another anime, but also this big original movie.
I mean, given what's gonna be happening in the next season, it is definitely gonna be big. Also, people think that the mysterious blonde-haired girl on the poster is the Invisible Girl.
Huh. Wow. That'd be something. And then they also have that game that they just announced, My Hero Academia One's Justice.
Yeah, it's like a Ninja Storm kind of game, apparently. I haven't seen the trailer yet.
But not by CyberConnect 2. It's a 3D fighting game by the Gundam Versus and Tekken and Soul Calibur crew.
Huh, that's got potential then.
Yeah, so that's definitely got a potential to it. Not a lot of footage has come out of it, but it could be interesting. That's something to look out for. It could be neat. And then this one, I feel like, is maybe the weirdest announcement. Well, not the initial part. There's a new Pokemon film coming out. Big surprise. The surprise attached to it is that Wit Studio is doing it. Also known for doing Attack on Titan and Ancient Magus Bride. Like, I feel like this is... I don't know if this is it perfectly correct, but this feels like the first time that it's really, like, out of the hands of the like, mainstay studio. I think it's OLM, who normally do it, like... But Wit Studio is, like, the headlining studio for this. That's
cool. It's a bit of an odd choice considering how really expressive the Sun and Moon anime has apparently been.
Yeah, like, it's a totally different look, too. Like, it's definitely not the same anime style as before, but it's definitely not sort of like the jokey Sun and Moon thing. Like, it's sort of trying to find this balance. It's very soft from the little preview that they've given.
Oh, is that where that one image of Ash with long hair has come from?
That's an edit of the thing from the preview, but yes.
Ah.
Yeah, that's an edit to it, but yes, that is where that base image comes from. And it definitely seems like maybe it's trying to do something more serious? So, I don't know, it's... After Pokemon the movie I Choose You was such an uproar, as it were, both good and bad, it seems like interesting that they're doing more of these, like, what seem like, risks as far as risks can go with the Pokemon franchise.
Yeah, it's neat.
Bring different people in doing new things. It could be cool. And then final, just sort of miscellaneous news is Yu Yu Hakusho is getting an anniversary Blu-ray release, and supposedly along with it there's supposed to be an all-new animated work attached to it. No real details of what that is, but it's been a long time since I watched Yu Yu Hakusho, but it would be nice to see all those boys back at it again.
I think I've been hearing some rumblings of people rewatching it over Twitter, and it seems like it still holds up pretty well, the dub especially.
Yeah, it seems like it would be the sort of the thing that holds up pretty well. I think I remember the animation sort of going to shit near the end, but that's what happens with long-running series, especially in the early 90s.
Yeah.
But, people like Yoshihiro Togashi, so. I can only imagine that more of that series would make fans happy.
Yeah.
And then finally, Japan is making ways to legitimize esports in a big way. Sort of try to make this one entity of esports and issue professional licenses to people and really make this into a business.
Nice.
And I think that's cool. But I think that the game choices they have are a little weirder. It's Pro Evolution Soccer 2018, Street Fighter 5, which is sure,
yeah.
Tekken 7, which sure, Puzzles and Dragons, and Monster Strike, which I didn't realize. I guess there must be an esport attached to Does Puzzles and Dragons even have a competitive element? Now I feel like I haven't done the research that I need to.
I don't know.
But they're issuing pro athlete licenses for Puzzles and Dragons.
I was gonna say that's absolutely incredible that for Puzzles and Dragons of all things.
Yeah, and apparently the reason they're doing this is so that they can't the Japanese government currently limits how much you can pay out for prize money.
Oh.
And so the idea is that if they're legitimizing this, they can make it bigger, they can give out more, they can make it sports.
Nice.
So government recognized athletes, which that could be neat. And I wonder if that ever comes to other parts of the world. We already treat things StarCraft like a real sport. So I wonder what we do, going forward with things like that.
I kind of hope so.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've legitimized a lot of very alternative ways of making a living. I feel like esports is like pretty low on the bar of like weird things you can do for a living at this point. But yeah, that's all the news I had for this season, and I think that makes it time for us to talk about anime.
Anime!
And so, as always, we start off with our leftovers from the fall season, things that are carrying over to the new year. And the first one on this list is Ancient Magus Bride.
Yeah.
And we've reached the point in the show where I haven't read the manga part of it, so I'm more excited to sort of see how those things change and like how the story develops. But like I feel like Ancient Magus Bride as an adaptation has been like really good in terms of sort of breathing life into its source material with like color and the addition of music and things like that.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the show too. I haven't actually read the manga, so this is all new stuff for me, but I'm a bit behind because it's sometimes hard to watch because it's a pretty depressing show sometimes.
It's heavy. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of heavy stories in it, and certainly like the things that Chisei goes through and has experienced and has these flashbacks about are like really dark in a very like human, empathetic sort of way, and it can be rough at times for sure. Like there's a lot of topics that are not easy to swallow, but I think that the way it handles it in general is pretty well done, especially in sort of like not focusing on the like romance marriage aspect of Chisei and Elias's relationship, and really putting more emphasis on them as like student teacher, you know, sort of like as Chisei learns to understand and appreciate the world around her.
And Elias slowly starts to do the same thing, I think.
Well, sort of, yeah, like he definitely starts to understand, you know, humans and humanity.
Yeah. A good sort of give and take relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think the side cast is pretty well rounded, like a lot of different types of characters that help like inform the world and the story in a way that's like really charming. It's a really nice series that is sometimes like hard to watch just because it gets into sort of like very dark topics, and not even like just at the human side, but like I'm sure we'll get into this more in the review, but like the Kingdom of Cats arc.
Oh yeah, that
definitely has a lot of that with sort of the depths of humanity and the way that like we can like pervert our ideals for the sake of people that we care about.
Yeah, that was some stuff.
Yeah, and so it does a lot of stuff like that, but I think it does it well, and so I've been really appreciating that, and just like the look of it I think is really good. It's a really good series, I think, and I really enjoy it. I'm happy that this adaptation is elevating its source material like this.
Yeah, I'm happy experiencing it for the first time, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good series. Then next up, another series that maybe sometimes gets a little heavy and hard to watch. March Comes In Like a Lion second season. So, like the first season, it's crossing the year boundaries, which makes it hard to discuss for things like anime of the year. But like, March Comes In Like a Lion, I feel like has, for the most part, been pretty consistent with the first season. And I think it does a good job, more often than not, of like balancing the shogi aspect of it to sort of the character aspect of it.
Yeah, it's been doing that pretty dang well lately, balancing Rei's shogi life with his character relationships with other folks, and it's been using it as a pretty good, lost my train of thought. Like,
I feel like this second season, at least early on, was very focused on other characters. You know, it kind of sort of trying to build out the supporting cast in a way that was like a little hard to get back into after such a long break. But, you know, still the world felt alive. Like, once we get back to Rey, everything feels familiar again, and, you know, we meet the sisters again who had been out of the anime for a while in the first season. And so it's nice to kind of have everything come back together.
Yeah, I actually rewatched this shortly after the first episode came out for a reason I can't understand, and I do feel like rewatching the first episode after I watched the old stuff it felt a lot more natural. It felt like just a straight continuation of where we left off from.
Yeah, it's definitely just like it's like, you better remember what happened in the last season, because we are not going to like introduce you at all. It is just more March Comes In Like a Lion, which I think is fine. It feels like a very Akiyuki Shinbo choice, and I think it does work out for this series, sort of like thrusting you in and sort of like forcing you to realign yourself with sort of the show when you start watching it.
I think the show has had an even better scene direction this season, to be honest.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's maybe not falling into Akiyuki Shinbo's like bag of tricks as often. And some of the stories I feel like have been like really, really strong. Like in particular, we had the arc with Hinata. And I think that whole thing was like sort of the best parts of March Comes In Like a Lion, like condensed into 3 episodes.
Yeah, it's still sort of ongoing, but yeah, I do agree that those 3 episodes were really, really excellent.
Yeah, and I think it deals with, you know, a pretty serious issue and is able to, like, handle it pretty well, just like, because, you know, it's the thing about bullying, it doesn't, like, try to sugarcoat anything, it shows how bad bullying can go, and, like, people who are in charge who are supposed to help you sometimes just don't because they're scared as well, and just like, you know, sticking up for the things that you believe in. It's it is, again, like kind of hard to watch, kind of like some of the things from Mage's Bride, but like it's very evocative, and it strikes the tone it wants to very well.
Yeah, it absolutely nails all the emotions it wants you to feel.
Yeah, like even though I think some of the comedy, like, falters a bit in the midst of things like its dramatic storylines, certainly, like, the parts where it wants to be serious are, like, phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, from one spectrum to another, you're also continuing with a couple other shows, like, Garo Vanishing Line, which, given that it is about a guy named Sword, can't imagine that it's, like, super emotional.
Actually, it has been.
Really? Okay, so we'll go into it more in the review, but like talk about where Garo is right now and sort of like where you see it going.
All right, so Garo Vanishing Line is a toku show about these folks, the Makai Knight. They're called Makai Knights, and they're basically fighting against horrors. A pretty typical sort of toku sort of setup. But I think where Vanishing Line differs from other stuff is that this is a show that really cares about its characters. Like, the first few episodes really sort of get you introduced to the 4 main characters of the show: Sword, Sophie, Luke, and Gina. Yes, he's named... I love that he's named Sword.
Sword is such a good name against 3 other totally normal names.
Yeah, it's great. But this show wants you to care about its characters and actually has a pretty decent tone to it. Like, there's this huge battle between Sword and this bad guy, named Knight. And it spends an entire episode showing you the absolutely destructed aftermath of this battle and all the civilians that suffered because of this, because all these buildings and places to live got destroyed. It was very... I don't know. It's not something I really expected this show to do, that it cares about the people in the show as much as it does. I'm kind of optimistic about it right now. I'm hoping that it's gonna, like, continue these nice character moments combined with these pretty solid action sequences, and, you know, it's interesting to see a big, beefy doofus named Sword actually have actually have a character and not just be a goofy caricature of a person.
Right, it definitely, not totally following off what you just said, but, like, it feels like the previous Garo animes have had, like, mixed reception at best, but this one seems to be, like, pretty solid overall from, like, the reactions I've seen to it.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot. It's been a nice surprise.
Yeah, that's cool. Is it, like, super pulpy, like the sort of hard coloring style from the preview seemed to make it out to be, or is it, like, pretty well worn in sort of, like, the style of, like, your average tokusatsu?
Oh no, it's pretty pulpy.
Okay, so it does kind of stick to that as, like, a style point.
Yeah, and I think it works well for it.
Because I really haven't seen anything from it besides, I feel like, multiple prolonged references to the part where he eats, like, a big plate of french fries and a big steak.
Yeah, it's been pretty pulpy throughout. It's balanced its goofy parts with its serious parts pretty well.
That's cool. And then, lastly, and I mean, most importantly, we're continuing on with Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains.
Yeah!
Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains feels like it's coming to a head very fast. We are on episode 31 now, and this feels like Endgame, right? Like,
yeah, it feels like the Knights of Hanoi are going to be doing something big, and like, from the preview for next week's episode, yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah, like, we're at the point where, like, all of the, like, second in command for this Illuminati have been defeated. So all that's left is the final person and his big plan, and his big plan literally just came to fruition. So, like, it feels like either Vrains is going to be very short, or it's kind of stepping away from the style of, like, Zexal and Arc 5, where it's going to be doing more, like, seasonal storylines rather than one long, elongated plot.
I mean, there are still some mysteries that we don't know about, like, what the hell is I, and also what the deal is with the mysterious heads of Sol Technologies that communicate via chess pieces.
Right, so it's like, I don't know if they're all gonna try to, like, roll that up into this storyline with Revolver and everything, or if it's just gonna be a case of, like, this season handles this part, and then the next one handles another part, and it's going to be, like, broken up more so than in other, in the previous two series.
Definitely feels like it's going to be doing the this is this season's story sort of thing.
Yeah, just because of how paced it is right now with sort of, like, the ending, coming up. It definitely feels like we're hitting endgame of this storyline 31 episodes in. And if I know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh!, it's not going to just end until at least 100 episodes in. Look, we got time, hopefully. And it's like, it's been fun. Vrains definitely rides a good balance of, like, self-serious and also fun. And I think that's really benefited by the fact that I, as, like, the companion or, like, the mascot character, is so, like, detached from everything, it feels like.
Yeah, he's definitely in his own little bubble, and he's just, like, turning Yusaku's dual disc into a drone.
Yeah, just, he's, like, a spot of, like, goofiness or sort of, like, lightheartedness in a show with not a lot of that. And so it's, like, it's really doing a good balancing act of sort of, like, everyone is the straight man to Ai's funny man.
I mean, there's also I do a heel turn.
Right, but, like, within the context of that story, where he does he does a heel turn and a face turn within a single duel, it's all, like, very self-serious.
Yeah, it is, but it's still really hilarious.
God, man. Well, I mean, we'll be sure to talk about it, but he spits acid in the man's face. It's wild. He really goes full heel. But that's all the leftover stuff. And then next up, we have all the shows we're very interested in checking out. These are shows that we feel like have a lot of potential, and nothing says potential like the Pop Team Epic anime.
Heck yeah.
That we're both going to be watching. So, Pop Team Epic is a 4-coma by an artist by the name of B-Cub, who was more well known for a while for sort of like his weird 4-comas of Toho characters.
Yeah.
And eventually this is spiraled into him getting his own like comic deal with Pop Team Epic, which is definitely like falls harder on some of the styles that he did with these Toho comics, where it's like a very irreverent sort of humor style. You know, it doesn't always have to have like a comprehensible joke to it, if you know what I mean. Like sometimes it's just, I wanted to do this weird thing and I don't really care if other people think it's funny.
It usually is, though.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, but like it's not like traditionally funny, I feel, either.
It's very shitpost funny.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's very millennial humor, right? It's all very sort of like nonsense in a way that like flows once you start reading more of them. Like it becomes apparent what kind of humor it's going for.
Yeah, I'm excited for whatever this nonsense is gonna be.
And what's great about it is the PV gives you absolutely zero idea what the anime is gonna be like.
Yeah, it's really good.
The preview for this anime is like an interview with like an American tourist in Japan, and sort of like talking about, and like he gets by the end he just gets kidnapped by two people dressed as the Pop Team Epic characters and like shoved into a white van, and that's the whole thing. There's no animation to it at all. It's like no idea what to expect, but if it can like still hit the same feel of sort of like irreverence that that the comic gives, I think there's something special to be gotten from Pop Team Epic.
I'm hoping it turns out to be good.
Yeah, because I have no idea how it's going to be done, because like the 4-coma style doesn't super fit with that. Like with what was it, like Nozaki-kun was a 4-coma that they did, but also had like plot in, you know, like there were several 4-comas attached that have a plot. Like none of Pop Team Epic's stories go past 4 panels. So it'll be interesting to see.
It's super weird that it's like listed under the full-length animes too.
Yeah, it's also 24 minutes somehow, right? Like, of all the shows you'd expect to be a short, Pop Team Epic is there, but no. Like, I would almost imagine it being, like, TQ-esque, but I guess they're gonna find a way to make it 24 minutes.
It's 24 minutes of shitposts.
Oh, God bless. I mean, sometimes you just need that in your life, and I hope Pop Team Epic can deliver on that.
Yeah, same.
Again, to, like, move to the entire other end of the spectrum, we're both also checking out Darling in the Franxx, which is a collab between Studio Trigger and A1 Pictures. And it's Giant Robot, which you might expect from, like, you know, Studio Trigger, given all of their pedigree with, like, Gainax stuff, you know? It's almost like a returning to roots.
Yeah, I was thinking that sort of thing as well.
It feels very Gundam-esque, I guess, in that sort of like it's about child soldiers in sort of like a ruined world, sort of like living on this mobile city, and you know, these kids drive mechs in duos and carry out missions to fight against like alien life forms of some kind. And we don't know a ton outside of that, but I feel like there is Studio Trigger never just like plays something totally straight. So I'm interested in what they can do with a very like a more serious setup, right? Like it feels like this is going for dramatics in a way that their style hasn't always like fit. Like all the other ones are kind of like irreverent in a sort of way, or like, very goofy. And this one definitely feels like it's trying harder to make like an impact with something.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to where this show is gonna be going, and like character interactions and all that sort of stuff. Like how is it gonna be played? Because like you said, we really don't know that much about it.
Yeah, we don't know much about it, and like everything that it looks from is like, yes, that is the Trigger style, but it feels like it's like all the designs and stuff feel like it's definitely like playing it a little more safe than Trigger does, which maybe comes from the fact that they're like collabing with A1 and they have like a bigger budget and sort of like, they're following sort of a different trend with Darling and the Franxx.
Yeah, it could be some of A1's decisions on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know how this is going to do, because like also Trigger so far has been very much like its own thing, like, kind of don't give a damn what anyone thinks about what Studio Trigger does. And so it'll be interesting to see something like this. I'm really curious what they're going to be able to do with it. Especially coming off of a show that I really liked.
Yeah, that's honestly what has me the most worried, is that Little Witch Academia was really good, and I'm kind of worried that this show isn't gonna be as good.
Right, because it's like, nothing else they've done has really hit me in the same way that Little Witch Academia did. So it's like, oh man, maybe they'll go, 2 for 2 in a row. Kind of thing. Like, and in such a vastly different style.
Yeah, here's hoping.
Yeah, and like, it definitely feels like Trigger goes for like sort of like fan favorites, and maybe not like, the favorite like in terms of like popularity or sort of like coverage. So it'll be interesting to see. This definitely feels like its most mainstream thing, and I think that's what's going to end up deciding how big it gets.
I don't know. I thought Little Witch Academia could be a mainstream thing.
Yeah, okay, you're right. I guess with Little Witch Academia, there was that first push, but like everything I feel like up to like Kisnaver felt a lot more like niche,
Yeah.
Then you're watching a show, coming right off one Fate train and onto another. We have Fate Extra Last Encore.
Yeah, so Fate Extra Last Encore is an adaptation of a video game that came out in 2010, and and Fate Extra follows this frick, what's his canon name?
Is this Nero? Or no, you mean the boy?
Yeah, I mean the boy. Yeah, I can never remember his canon name because he's nameable. Ah, there we go. It's Hakuno Kishinami. It's about him waking up in a strange classroom and him getting involved in this Holy Grail war, because the big thing about Fate Extra is that it is extremely cyberpunk, because the Holy Grail war takes place inside the moon, which is a giant computer that observes humanity.
Holy shit.
Yeah, the background setting of Fate Extra is some wild shit.
So, okay, this is gonna show how little I know about the Fate series. Is this the one that ends... Do you know a lot about Fate Extra? I guess I should start this.
Yes.
Is this the one that ends with Heaven's Hole, or am I thinking of a different game?
That is the pseudo-sequel CCC.
Okay. Alright, so this is before that whole thing happens, because that's like the one big thing I know about Fate Extra is like, that's weird.
Yeah,
is the whole Heaven's Hole thing. See, now that is extra. But, so Fate Extra is like is a story before that?
CCC, I think, takes place in, like, the middle of it, but nobody remembers it.
Oh, okay. Everyone just pretends it didn't happen.
No, I wish I could play Extra CCC, but it doesn't have an English translation, and will probably not get an English release ever.
Is there not a patch for it? I thought I had seen something like that.
Someone's working on one, but release date unknown.
But like Fate Stay Night, it's 3 million words, so it'll take forever to get translated.
Yep.
And the focus of this one isn't on the same saber, it's on like Nero, right?
Yes.
That's the
Nero's very much a fan favorite. Well, all 3 servants in Extra are fan favorites, but because Nero is the saber, she gets the starring role.
Right. The red saber. Because that's where Rin comes from also, right?
No, Rin was in the original novel, but there's also...
There's a Rin in this one, right?
Yes.
There's someone who looks like Rin.
Yeah.
Okay. And then who's the beefy guy? Is that an archer or is that a...
The one on the cover?
Yes.
Yeah, he's an archer.
Okay, that's an archer. Look, doing this with you, eventually I'm going to learn everything I need to know about Fate, I'm sure.
Oh no.
But, okay, so this'll be interesting. Again, like, it seems like Fate has suddenly gotten bigger in maybe an inexplicable way.
Oh no, there's a very clear reason for that, and it's the phone game.
Is it Grand Order?
Yeah. Yeah, that exploded.
I did hear that it was, like, the most popular app, at least for a while.
Yeah, it's still really
And that
big.
seems nuts.
I'm excited for more for the point, because I think in a few months is the point where the quality of the writing and that dramatically improves.
Oh, that's good. Finally, it gets to the good part of the mobile game.
Yeah. But I guess to actually talk about the anime, one of the things I'm hoping for is that they figure out a way to pace it better, because the actual game feels very much like a Fate version of Persona 3.
Okay. Huh. And Shaft's doing this one, right? I think they worked on the game.
They might have done the opening animation for the game, but
right,
yeah.
That's what I meant. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm hoping this turns out good, because Nero is a character I like a lot.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. Then I have my solo pick for the season, and that is Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card Arc.
The return.
The finally, like I think this was for like the 20th anniversary at this point that the manga came out, and now they're making an anime of it. And I got into Cardcaptor Sakura, I think like 2 years ago. It was very, very, very late, all things considered, to it. But I ended up really enjoying it. It definitely feels sort of like a progenitor for a lot of magical girl stuff to come later, and it's very charming in a really nice way, I think. All the characters are really well done, and so I'm interested to see what it's like, for not only the writers of the original Cardcaptor Sakura, but then like the director and the studio and the people working on the anime for it, how things have changed and developed within these like 20 different years, right? Like Clamp has become a very different sort of group since then, and it seems like the style of like the previews and stuff for the anime has gone like even harder in on sort of like the shoujo aspect of it, where everything's a lot lighter, everything is like definitely has a lot more sort of like tone to it. So I'm interested to see what they do with it and sort of like how they can build upon that story, because I feel like they left it pretty open-ended as like this finishes the story, but there's plenty of other things to happen in the world with the original series. So I think it's going to be cool. Cardcaptor Sakura is cool, and I'm excited to see, even if it doesn't turn out like, as good as the original, just what it's like to return to something like that after 20 years.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious as to how it's going to go myself, but I am completely unsure if I can watch it. Partially because Nero and Sakura have the same voice actor.
Oh, that would make it kind of hard, I guess.
It would be a hell of a shift.
Yeah, the oeuvre of Japanese voice actors, I feel like, is in such a way that like you start to recognize that, and suddenly it like really changes something how you like read the characters.
Yeah.
And then the last one on here is sort of like this feels like the rogue pick in a lot of ways. It's called Hakata Tonkatsu Ramens, and you're watching this, so why don't you explain this?
Alright, so Hakata Tonkatsu Ramens is... It seems like it's going to be like a crime drama sort of anime.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what got me most interested in it is the PV has like... Most of the music is just straight up jazz, and I feel like that sort of thing works really well for a crime drama, so I'm just, I'm curious about it, because I want to see, like, a crime drama back with some nice jazz, and it would fit the tone really well. I don't know, it's just something I'm super curious about.
Yeah, I wasn't super into the animation, but definitely it has, like, a style to it that feels good from the preview, and it's, like, it's weird, like, it's this city where sort of, like, everything seems okay, but, like, the individuals there are all really good at something, like, they've got professional killers and detectives and stuff like that, and, like, someone who is, like, the professional killer shows up, and it seems like it's gonna be, like, a bunch of these, like, oddball characters sort of coming together to, like, solve that sort of mystery.
Yeah, the premise seems pretty interesting, and I think I figured out why I want to watch this, and it feels like, and it's because it might feel the 91 days shaped hole that's been missing.
Yeah, I could see that, like, kind of 91 days, yeah, maybe, like, a little more over the top than something like 91 days, but definitely sort of that same vibe. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I'm not watching this to start out, but it's definitely something I'd want to keep my eye on, because it does seem like something that could be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm hoping it is. At least it's going to get a couple episode test from me.
Okay. So, knocking that off, we go right next to the kinda, sorta interested list. And this starts out with a couple shows that I'll be watching. First up being Violet Evergarden, which is KyoAni's new project. And KyoAni's been pretty miss for me for a while, but if nothing else, the technical parts of their animation are, like, something to really be beheld. Like, they always do an incredible job with what they make, because they can pick what they make, you know?
Yeah.
And Violet Evergarden's been teased for, I feel like, years at this point, where it was published under KyoAni. They had done, like, commercials for the light novel, and now finally they're like, they've announced that they did this anime, and finally it's getting put into production. And there's not a lot to be known about it, but sort of, like, it's based around it's a technology called auto memory dolls, which are sort of, like, created to assist humans who need help and are, like, rented out to people. And it's like there's this blend between, some of them are just there to do, like, household things and, like, help people with disabilities, and then also some are built to perform military tasks. And it seems like there's going to be a weird sort of, like, not weird, but sort of like this distinction between those two parts of their like, tasks and interactions with people in a way that could be done really well. Like, I think it's a very stylish and very, like, evocative sort of setup that they've put together that could be interesting to see.
Yeah, it seems like they're leaning more into the drama side of things with this.
Yeah, it's definitely, like, dropping a lot more of the comedy stuff, which is, it seems like that's been more of what they've been doing, lately. Well, I guess I say that, but it's like Sound Euphonium was a big drama thing.
Yeah.
But then you go back, it's like Miss Kobayashi, it's Phantom World, it's Amagi Brilliant Park, it's, So I'm interested to see how this one turns out.
For sure.
Unfortunately, it's a Netflix thing, so watching it legally will take a while, but, there are other avenues. And then next up is another show I'm watching, which is called Yuru Camp Delta. I'm not sure if the Delta is actually part of the name or if that's just supposed to be, like, a tent in the name. But Yuru Camp is a story of a club of girls who like to go out and camp, right? It's very of that style where it's just girls doing things they like and being cute. And, I feel like I've been away from that enough that I'd like to try to get into it again. And Eurocamp just seems to have, like, a really nice aesthetic to it. And the fact that it's about sort of, like, outdoors stuff has a lot of opportunities for really nice shots of scenery and like character stuff in a way that just like sitting them in high school doesn't always give.
It is, in fact, a tent.
Okay, so it is supposed to be a tent and not a delta symbol. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, either way. Important to think about these sorts of things. But yeah, I'm looking for a feel-good thing, and I hope that this can to fill that hole. It looks cute. I keep confusing it, though, for the other outdoors-based cute girls do cute things show, Encouragement of Climb, which is also getting a second season, but this is not that show. This is a different thing.
Huh.
Yeah, the outdoors, they're in now. So these next ones on here, for the most part, are from you, and so I'll have you talk about them. This first one is Teasing Master Takagi.
Yeah. So, this is about a middle school student named Nishikata who gets teased a whole bunch by the person who's sitting next to him in class, Tagaki.
His desk neighbor.
Yeah, his desk neighbor. And he's trying to make her feel as embarrassed as he does, and it's sort of just like these two middle schoolers just trying to mess with each other in a really cute, sort of fluffy way.
Out-embarrass each other.
Yeah, although I'm not sure if Takagi is aware of this. She's just a natural, but, from what I saw from the preview, it just looks kind of cute and charming and not weird at all.
Right, which is always nice. It almost has, like, a feel of maybe, like, My Neighbor Seki, which is a show about sort of, like, someone whose desk mate is constantly just doing, like, weird random stuff and sort of, like, pulling them in. Sort of that same sort of dynamic where you focus on two people who are forced to be next to each other and deal with each other.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like they're forced. Like, they're really forced. They're just goofy.
Well, as classmates, they're, forced to be next to each other, so they inevitably interact, is what I meant.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, it seems like a nice, fluffy show to watch. In the same sort of vein as why you're watching Eurocamp, I'd probably watch this because it's just a nice, cute-looking show.
Yeah, sure. Then next up, we have Hakame and Mikochi.
Yeah. So, this is a show that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. It is about these two extremely tiny girls, as in, they are 9 centimeters tall. They're very small. And, and it's these two girls just living in the forest and going on adventures. And it's just really cute looking. Like, that's it, really.
Hey, whatever works.
I mean, I think the most notable thing about it is the animation style of it.
Who's doing that? I think it's Lersch?
Yeah, Lersch. But yeah, if you haven't seen the PV, I'd say check it out. It looks very distinct.
It's definitely got a lot of detail in its nature stuff. And everyone is like a chibi moe blob.
Yeah.
Which I guess makes sense when you're dealing with like more or less like forest sprite characters.
Yeah, that's right. I know there's like a specific term for those kind of sprites, and that's what they are.
Okay. Alright, cool. And then last up on here is Dagashi Kashi 2, which is maybe one of the strangest second seasons that I've seen in a while. So, Dagashi Kashi 2, follow-up to the candy comedy first season, Dagashi Kashi. And it's changed studios, and it's changed formats, and it's pretty significantly changed art styles.
Yeah, it's really weird.
So, Dagashi Kashi tells the story of Hotaru Ishidare, who is sort of like the
heir?
The heir to a candy throne, as it were. And she pops into sort of a rural candy shop, which the owner's son, Kokonotsu Shikata, is there. And he doesn't want to take over his father's candy shop. He wants to become a manga artist, but constantly Hotaru kind of pulls him into her candy interests, and they get into wacky adventures with the people in the rural area.
Yeah, it's a fun show, or was a fun show.
And yeah, so now it's a short series, and now it's got a new art style, maybe more in line with the manga. And it's it's a strange change because they also moved studios and stuff. So like, I don't know what's going to happen at this point. I don't know if all the staff came over.
I don't think so.
So yeah, like it seems like it's going to be very different in tone. And I feel like where maybe like some of the first season felt padded out, maybe like the short series is supposed to like try to make the jokes land and more frequently.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I don't know, because like when they say short, they mean it's a 15-minute series. Like at that point, what's even the point of calling it a short? Like,
who knows?
It seems weird to be like halfway between a full series and what you would like traditionally consider a short. So I don't know. I didn't end up finishing the first season, but if this one sort of like, I guess, fixes the things I didn't really like about it, like if it is punchier and more consistent, then maybe I'll give this second season a shot.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm just kind of cautious about it because of the whole big change in quality.
Right, with how much has changed,
yeah.
Sure. Then we have a pretty short, maybe not section. Just shows that we're keeping our eye on, but, you know, these aren't our first picks for things that we're going to be looking out for. And the first one on here is Record of Grand Crest War, which actually comes from the same main team as the old series Record of Lodos War.
Oh, really?
Which, yeah, that's why it's so similar in name. So, and Record of Lodos War was basically like, I think it was just like people at Madhouse who had a sweet D&D campaign that they wanted to make an anime out of. And I don't know if Grand Crest follows that exact same sort of setup. I know A1's doing it now instead of Madhouse, but I think it's like the same writer and general like main staff behind it. So it could be interesting to see, again, it's sort of like Cardcaptor Sakura coming back, the way that this sort of like style of show changes, you know, between the original series and something that's like so attached but also removed from it. It seems neat. Like it seems like a cool action series, but I want to hear sort of like what impressions are of it going forward.
Yeah, same here, because because it, even though it looks like, you know, a generic fantasy anime, that stuff can surprise. It can still turn out surprisingly good, like Grimoire of Zero did.
Yeah. Then we have Beatless on here, which was your pick, and I want you to talk about it, because I definitely think there is like something interesting that could be gotten from Beatless.
It feels similar to what KyoAni's thing is doing, because it seems like it's both going to be about androids and how they relate to people, and, you know, it feels like it's going to be about, like, it's going to have some sort of what makes an android human thing about it, and that could be interesting,
right.
But also, it's about fighting androids, and they're all cute girls, and,
Yeah, it's like sort of about robot racism, and it's also sort of about, like, cute anime girls beating the shit out of each other from, like, the preview.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the heck this thing's deal is.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what direction it's going to end up taking. Immediately when I read about, like, you know, characters who are distrustful of AI and see them as subhuman, it makes me think of, like, Time of Eve, which was a show that really, like, tried to do the argument of, like, what, like, with a sufficiently powerful AI, what is the distinction between human and a robot, and does it matter? Yeah. It seems like Beatless is doing that while also having the robots punch each other.
Yeah, that's definitely the vibe I get from it, too.
Yeah, it's like a virus comes in via, like, a cherry blossom storm and causes the AIs to go berserk, but there's this good AI who hangs out with our weak boy protagonist who loves robots.
Yeah, that's kind of the part that worries me.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because it definitely could just be a show like that, but it could be something neat.
It could even be both.
What if it's somehow both? They could figure it out. And it's a Finnish series, which is nice. It's like a single novel thing, so it should be pretty easy to like adapt it with a full series.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Then next up we have the Junji Ito collection, which I think when it was first announced, it was just sort of like, hey, we're doing a Junji Ito anime, and wasn't really sure where that was going. But this anime seems to be sort of like almost like a best of kind of thing, where it's like animating different short stories based on his work.
Yeah, a collection of one-offs.
Yeah, so probably not like your Uzumaki's or something like that, but it should be interesting to see what they do with that, because Junji Ito has a style to him, and I wonder how that translates to animation.
Yeah. And I hope it's good for the people who like this sort of stuff, but I'm just not a fan of horror animes.
Yeah, I get that, and like definitely horror has a lot to live up to when it suddenly has to follow sort of like the TV anime format. So I'm waiting to see sort of like what that looks like. This is not Junji Ito's first anime though, didn't they? I feel like there was like an OVA based on Gyo or something done at Gonzo or something.
I feel like there was something else. Yeah.
But this one seems like the first like big deal one.
Yeah, that's definitely why people are so excited about it.
Right. Oh, Gyo was done by Ufotable. And then last one on here is Mitsuboshi Colors, which is I guess my second pick for cute girls do cute things, sort of like fun, easy show to watch, which is about these 3 little girls who sort of like act as like protectors of the city, and so they're like color coded in their outfits, and they go out and sort of like have crazy adventures as they, protect the peace in their own way. And the PV seems to show that it's like, it's not going to get like super wacky, but it's definitely like a bunch of kids act out in a way that feels very like grade schooler in the way that they are. Like they're wearing like those glasses that have the eyeballs that pop out kind of thing, and just going around like that's totally normal, and like playing 3DS and doing stuff. Like it does feel like very naturalistic and cute, but also there's a part in the PV where they are definitely holding a bazooka. And so I don't know how we get from A to Z there, but it seems like a show that could be cute and could be fun to watch. So I'll wait to hear about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. And then our not interested list takes up the majority slot here, and we'll try to go through them pretty quick. First one is Death March to the Parallel World Rhapsody, which seems very ReZero, I guess. I think this was announced for an anime before ReZero was too, but it definitely gives off that same vibe of guy goes to very specific fantasy world, and he's very good at what he does, and all the girls like him kind of thing.
It's an isekai story. Yay!
Yay! Except I think it's explicitly a video game this time, but whatever. Then the next one here we have is Slow Start, which is a cute girls do cute things thing where the only distinction is that I guess the characters started high school a year later than everyone else.
I think it's just the main girl.
Just the main girl. It's a flimsy premise to have to stand out against other series of its ilk. It's a strange choice.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that I don't know how a year makes that much of a difference with this, but it's there. Then we have Sanrio Danshi, which is also known as Sanrio Boys, which is Sanrio's inevitable rise to power where they will control all of the media. This one is the most masturbatory series they've made because it's about boys who like Sanrio products and come to terms with liking Sanrio products even though they're boys.
Hearing you explain it is just, it reminds me of how ridiculous it is.
It's just like a commercial. It's wild.
Yeah.
But Sanrio Boys seems to have been doing pretty well. I mean, they're selling products with it. They've got like a phone game. There was a point at some American anime convention where they did like the American Sanrio Boys, and they were all like big, muscular, beefy dudes, like kind of like bros who had like Hello Kitty stuff. And it's just like, Sanrio Boys seems weird on that angle, but otherwise it's like a really innocuous anime series about boys who like Sanrio, which good on them. Then we have Dame X Prince Anime Caravan, which is based on, I think, a mobile otome game, which just, above all else, looks really tacky.
That's as far as I could understand, too. It seems to be anime original content.
Yeah, but it's just like, it just seems like a very, like, all the characters seem really tacky, and just overall it seems like, Then we have the new Precure, which I feel like, unlike other Precures, when we've gotten to them, we don't have a lot of information on, besides it's called Hugto Precure, which could mean anything at this point. They're all, like, based around, like, a thing, like, before it was, like, going to magic schools, they were all, like, witches and stuff, or the one most recent is, like, they're all based on, like, pastries, or, like, baking, things, and I don't know what they're gonna do with hugs.
More hugs?
But maybe. I don't feel like I have the time and dedication for Precure.
And yet we both have the time and dedication for Yu-Gi-Oh!
Shh, it's different. I only have time in my life for one of those. And I've picked Yu-Gi-Oh! As my hell. Then we have GDGD Men's Party, which is a spin-off of a 3D CG improv show from like 2 years ago called like GDGD Fairies. I guess this is just like an all-male spin-off. I don't know what they're going to do with it. I assume it's still going to be all improv and mocaps like the other shows from that group.
Yeah, I've heard somebody say that GDGD Fairies is really funny, so maybe this will be really funny as well. Yeah,
but like, man, it's so weird that feels like it's its own genre, is like improv 3D anime.
Also, it's from 6 years ago.
Yeah, man, wild. Then next up we have Miss Koizumi Loves Ramen Noodles, which, I mean, it seems sort of like, cute girls do cute things, but they, like, eat ramen, and they, learn a lot about food, sort of like maybe in the style of, like, a Wakako Zake, or, like, what's that one this season, like, Love is Like a Cocktail, where it seems like it's gonna be focused both on these cute girls and also on the artistry of ramen.
Yeah.
Then we have Toji no Miko, which is about shrine maidens who have swords and they fight against things.
The PV did not make it seem like they're going to be fighting things.
They are presumably fighting things because they have swords. But yeah, it definitely feels like the first time that someone, like, plops their boobs on someone else's head, I'm like, yep, that's a show I'm not gonna watch. But I think they're, like, part of, like a SWAT team of shrine maidens. But anyways, then we have Gakuen Babysitters, which is, the boys who are babysitters. It's like the Babysitters Club, but for anime.
Yep.
Then we have Idolish 7, which is an idol thing that I think started this season. Maybe it's like a preview couple episodes. It's one of those mixed media things where, like, they've got a game and they got an anime and they'll probably get, like, mangas and stuff if it's popular. But, it's boy idols. Then next we have Kokoku, which, if nothing else, I think is interesting because it's being done by Gino Studio, which was the studio that took over, what was the name of that movie? The Genocidal Organ movie when Manglobe went bankrupt. So I think this is all, or at least like, it to some degree, ex-Manglobe staff working on something.
Oh, nice.
I think they're also doing the Golden Kamui anime in 2018. But it's nice that they like have sort of regrouped and within this new studio been able to find work.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Kokoku seems sort of like a psychological thriller mystery show about this girl who suddenly finds herself with her nephew and brother being held ransom, and she gains the ability to stop time in order to like save them, but she is not the only one who can stop time. And like the visuals aren't super impressive, and the story from what it showed in the previews didn't really grab me, but it could be neat.
Yeah, I'm just kind of neutral about it, honestly. It could go either way.
Yeah. Then we have Ryuo no Oshigoto, which, if March Comes In Like a Lion is the serious, dramatic shogi series, this is the cute and comical one about a teenage boy who is a shogi master, and a 9-year-old girl shows up at his house to become his disciple. It doesn't seem like, from watching the previews, it doesn't seem like something like Rokyubu, which is like a weird thing where it's like grade schoolers playing basketball, and it's like kind of bad. This one seems less focused on the fact that like she's a 9-year-old or whatever, and more focused on like making shogi weird, where it's like they have a lot more like wacky characters, you know, on the side, like a dude who's like totally a chuny, like he's got like the heterochromia, and he like, you know, wears this big extravagant jacket and like suit to his shogi matches. Like, it seems pretty innocuous, but it could definitely go bad with a setup like this.
Yeah.
But look, I can barely keep up with the shogi, and March Comes In Like a Lion, and that is like a sidelined aspect at best. I can't do shogi.
Look, you just need to watch the tutorial that March Comes In Like a Lion does, where everything is explained by cats.
I guess you're right. So then the next one on our list is Marchin Madchen, which is like a magical girl school sort of thing, where all of the characters have powers based on like fairy tales.
Yeah.
Like Princess Kaguya, the little matchstick girl, Snow White, things like that. And I'm not super interested in the premise unless it can like really like elevate that idea. The one thing that like makes me feel kind of bad that I'm not interested in it is the author of the series died earlier this year, and so like I think right as this got announced, and so it's like a really unfortunate thing where like this feels like it's going to be in some ways like a tribute to him.
Oh wow.
And his work. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's a really sad thing that, you know, this happened, but... And then, also on the list is How to Keep a Mummy, which is about a bunch of kids who fall upon the cutest little mummy in the world, and they take care of this mummy baby. Which, the one notable thing this show has done, made a mummy cute. I didn't think it was possible. They did it.
and everybody gets all these like weird little creatures apparently.
Yeah. Look, the Dark Timeline reboot of the Universal Monsters didn't work. Maybe this is the thing that they need. They need to go the opposite direction. New Mummy is a baby chibi.
A weird little moe blob.
Yeah. Then next up we have Takonomi, which again is sort of like seems to be in sort of like this Miss Koizumi loves ramen noodles, kakozake sort of thing, where it's like, here are some girls who live together in a house, and they just have meals and drink alcohol together, and probably talk about like pairings and stuff.
Living the life.
Yeah, I mean, it's living the dream. It might be interesting just for like the like food stuff that goes along with it. Kind of like, I feel like Love Is Like a Cocktail would be interesting to see just for like the discussion of food prep.
Yeah.
Then we have Soul Hunter, which looks very decidedly retro, and that's because it is. It's based on a very old series. And Yeah, it seems like it's shonen action in that very sort of like late 90s, early 2000s sort of style.
Yeah, it's another anime that's getting the Ushio and Tora treatment.
Yeah, where like they're going back and maybe actually finishing it this time. Which that could be cool. Like nothing about it like stuck out to me as like, oh, this is something that I should be paying attention to, but it's cool. I think it's cool that when that sort of like boom happened where it's like, oh, all these shonen things are getting adaptations before they're done, that now people are going back and like, you know, kind of finishing what they started.
Yeah, that's pretty neat, and I'm glad stuff like that is, you know, getting another chance.
Yeah. And then last up, we have all of the second seasons that either we haven't watched the originals or we have no interest in, like Overlord 2. Overlord was just kind of like a whatever isekai thing, and I guess it's getting more.
The difference is that the main boy is a skeleton.
But still everyone wants to fuck him.
Yep.
We can't get too far away from that. Then we have Silver Guardian, second season, which I think you had said earlier, it's like you didn't even realize that it was popular enough to get a second season.
Yeah. Well, like, did you hear anybody watching this?
No, but the thing about Silver Guardian is, if I remember correctly, it's a manhwa, like a Chinese adaptation, and so I would assume that it was big enough there. Like maybe this is sort of like their Sword Art Online. Like reading the description for it, it definitely seems that way. Where this is sort of like this is sort of like their like big breakout sort of thing. So maybe that's what's pushing forward a second season for it.
Another Sword Art Online.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I think that's the thing that goes along with it, because it's done by the studio that's done all the other manhwa adaptations. Then we have the Disastrous Life of Psyche K 2, which is like a comedy series that it just never like hit me, and it never really interested me or got on my radar as something I should check out. We also have the second season of Token Ranbu Hanamaru, which is sort of like the slice of life Token Ranbu series as compared to the Ufotable one, which was all action-packed. We have the fourth season of Yowamushi Pedal called Glory Line, and there's just way too much for me to even consider catching up at this point, if I were interested. We have the second season of Kaiju Girls Ultra Kaiju Gajinka Keikaku, which is exactly as you might expect. It is about all of the classic kaiju from cinema, but they are girls now, you know. Still like 60 feet tall, if I remember correctly, so, you know, that's good. We have the sequel to Time Bokon, The Villains Strike Back, which is, I don't know, it's kind of like Carmen Sandiego, I guess, where it's like they go back in history and have to fix all these weird inconsistencies based on Japanese puns that we'll never understand. We have a sequel to like a really old series called Basilisk, and the sequel is the Oka Ninja Scrolls. And I had no idea this existed, but I guess it's cool because I guess it does follow sort of in the Soul Hunter sort of thing, where it's like it seems like it's this old thing that's finally getting more to its adaptation from whenever it started.
Yeah, I haven't watched Basilisk either, so
Yeah. Then we have The Seven Deadly Sins, a revival of the Ten Commandments, which is just more of not the 18 plus Seven Deadly Sins, the other one. The
that
shonen
one gets
one.
a second season too.
Shush, hey, don't spoil that. But yeah, so that's The Seven Deadly Sins, which seems like more than anything else it's popular because it's accessible, because it's on Netflix. And so it's getting more of that.
I've heard it's good too.
Yeah, I've heard decent things about it. It's just like, it's one of those things that I've never taken the time to look into.
Yeah, same here.
And then finally, we have what has been promised to be the final Gintama arc. We swear, we promise, Gintama Silver Soul arc. Which I think which would end with the manga ending, which is definitely ending, guys. We promise, we swear, it's not like Bleach.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I mean, God bless the Gintama fans for sticking through all of this. It seems like it's cool that Gintama basically doesn't have to take breaks in its particular setup. Like, it's not like other shonen series. It's just like, now, once they started back up, it's like all the way through to the end.
Nice.
And now, as always, it's our Poopoo garbage list, starting off with Citrus. Citrus made it on the list because it's a Yuri series about step siblings, and I think it gets like, it has some like the dubcon, sort of like dubious consent sort of stuff to it, and like maybe a harem element to it too, from what I've heard. Citrus just like, it really hits every bell, you know, it puts up every warning, kind of. Wow. Yeah, I don't... Yeah. We deserve better same-sex romance stories than things like Citrus.
Yeah, for sure.
Or that other one that came out this year that I can't think of, NTR. Yeah.
What an unfortunate acronym.
I don't think it's unfortunate. I think it's extremely intentional.
Yes. Absolutely.
Then we have another romance thing, Love is Like After the Rain, which is the story of a high school student who falls in love with the manager at her part-time job, who is 45 to her 17, and he's like divorced. And while that has a setup similar to something like Scum's Wish from this year, which I think turned out well because it's about how those relationships are bad, this one seems to romanticize that relationship in a way that then makes it uncomfortable. Like, from reviews and things that I've seen of the manga, it seems like it is definitely more on the side of like romanticizing the age gap and like the way that love breaks boundaries in a way that seems really uncomfortable.
Okay, I'm glad I got the correct impression after reading that description.
Then we have Seven Deadly Virtues, which is the, I guess, sister series to Seven Deadly Sins.
Seven Mortal Sins, I think, was the dub name.
Right, Seven Mortal Sins, because they had to separate it from Seven Deadly Sins. Really. But yeah, so the idea is that in the previous series, they, like, spread their plague to the world, and so all of the hot angel babes come down from heaven to fix it. And so this is by a new studio, because the old studio closed down. I assume it's most of the same staff, though. It is impeccably in that style, I guess.
It's exactly what you'd expect.
It is extremely what you expect. The boobies are big and the shame is bigger. I guess the one thing that I have to give it credit to is that it's using, like, it's deep cutting some of these, like, angel names, like in the same way that Evangelion did. And I don't know if that, like, actually plays into anything they're doing, but, like, I guess they did their research in this fucking sacrilege. And then finally on this list is Killing Bites, which, wow.
It's horny Pokemon!
It's reminded me a lot of Poke Girls reading about it. If you know what Poke Girls is, I'm really sorry. So Killing Bites is about human-animal hybrids who, I guess, like, fight. Like, they're basically, this is like their way of legalizing dogfighting in whatever universe this is. And I don't know, it just seems like it's supposed to be sort of like sexy and scary, and the art doesn't look good, and from what I understand, it like opens with some really brutal shit and maybe like an attempted rape. Like, everything about it just seems like real
bad.
Trashy and bad. Yeah, wow. Killing Bites, huh?
It is definitely some teen's edgy fanfiction.
Look, it's for an audience, and you know what? God bless them, but also curse them. Curse them for bringing this into existence.
Curse you, teens.
Stop being so horny. Read the Bible. But don't read the Seven Heavenly Virtues Bible. Don't watch that show either. It's not going to teach you anything. But yeah, so that's the whole anime season. It definitely feels like there aren't as many shows as, say, like, this fall or the summer. But I think that's fine because, like, we've definitely found, 10 to 12 shows that we're really interested in or checking out. And, like, there's I don't know, it definitely doesn't feel any less stacked as a season than the last couple. And especially in comparison to, like, last winter season, which definitely, for me, ended up feeling, like, really empty. So it's nice that, like, there's still plenty to be gotten from this season, at least at first glance.
Yeah, it seems like there's still no less amount of quality good shows to watch this time around.
And it seems like we even got, like, fewer bad shows, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed... Okay, so, I guess, late game announcement, this just coming in from the studio. Apparently, Hitori Noshida, The Outcast, is getting a sequel, which is another, one of those manhwa stories. It's like a zombie, superpower, supernatural action sort of thing.
That sounds like another Sword Art Online.
No, they're in the regular world. It just happens that zombies also come to life, you know.
Oh, no, I meant in the sense of, like, this is generic stuff that's, like, made for mainstream consumption.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like, at least from the people I talk to, which isn't a ton of people, but it seems like manhwa is sort of very much that sort of, like, a lot of trying to grab onto trends that they see in, like, Japanese media.
Yeah.
And then also, in things that don't get caught by, like, TV stuff, we're getting a new Fate Grand Order special.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, so, like, the first one, which was sort of like an introduction to the game, this one seems like maybe a genuine side story. It's called Fate Grand Order Moonlight Lost Room, centering on a lost room where you can find what is lost, or those who lost. This room, which belongs to no one, lies forgotten in a corner of Chaldea, and it seems to focus on MASH. Is that what her...
that is her English name. It is MASH.
Yeah, MASH. Okay. So it seems to focus on MASH. That could be neat. I mean, Fate Grand Order big. So, I mean, why not make more of it?
But
yeah. So now, that's all the anime. I'm excited. I'm glad there's still plenty of shows I'm looking forward to, and I hope they turn out good.
Yeah, same here. I continue to be watching too much.
Yeah, certainly for you, it's like there are like 5 holdovers from last season.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, you got a lot of stuff to stay with, and then even more coming up, you know? You got your Pop Team Epics, your Darling in the Franxx.
Yeah,
You're gonna be busy.
Yep.
Maybe that's not such a bad thing. I think it's good that there's a lot of good stuff coming out, you know? Or at least stuff that seems interesting.
Yeah. I'm excited.
So, we got one question that I want to answer here, I guess, since it relates to something we brought up with Violet Evergarden. This comes from friend of the show, QB. And it says, I don't like that Netflix is making it difficult to talk about anime in some social spaces and widening the gap between casual fans and no-good pirates. What do I do? And I think this is a thing that has definitely become more prominent as like Netflix picks up more anime.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but it seems like Netflix has been releasing things sooner than before?
Yeah, it seems like at this point it's basically like on like a season delay, maybe a 2-season delay at worst, but it seems like it's, it does make it difficult to talk about though, like, the people who are going to steal it are going to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And the people who are waiting patiently suddenly have to dodge this minefield for who knows how long just to be able to watch it. And I think maybe a bigger issue is like Netflix provides these anime and a lot of like what I what I see as like very like beginner friendly anime to an audience that otherwise wouldn't have access to something like Crunchyroll or, you know, like Funimation or something like that, where it's like, you know, there are a lot of kids whose parents have Netflix accounts because Netflix is like for everyone, and that's how they get into anime, is they watch like, I don't know, Naruto or Seven Deadly Sins or, you know, Death Note if they don't tell their parents what it is. That kind of thing. Like, you know, they have these kind of like big hits or things that they expect to be big hits. You know, like Little Witch Academia feels like that sort of show where it's like perfectly fit for anime fans and also like casual fans and newcomers and like children just to pick up and watch, you know?
Gateway anime.
Yeah, for sure. And like, it sucks that Netflix does not follow the same sort of like simulcasting thing as it does. Well, it sucks that Netflix America does not follow the same sort of simulcasting thing as its Japanese counterpart or others formats like this. But it's definitely because they're trying to do these dubs and they're trying to make it as accessible as possible to this completely different audience. And yeah, it's like, it is good in some ways, I think, for these series and for the industry on this side of the ocean. But it's definitely something that makes it harder when you're as online as us, I guess is like a general description. It's like, when you are online and you're talking to people who are into anime, inevitably, you're going to talk to people who are watching it week to week. And pirate it for that purpose because they want to be able to keep up with the conversation. And then you have people who are even more moral than I am and will refuse to pirate these shows out of principle and wait the 6 months. But then they have to dodge all these spoilers. They have to deal with people who are talking about it beforehand. And by the time they watch it, that conversation's not dead, but certainly has less fervor behind it.
I can't believe Anime Guitaris was right.
It's true. I mean, Anime Guitaris is right about a lot of things, and I'm sure we'll talk about it next show.
But yeah, I can give an example of this because I'm watching a show that Netflix has done. Fate Apocrypha is one of them. And as an example, like last week's episode was probably one of the most amazing spectacles of animation I've ever seen. And Netflix isn't going to be getting that for, like, another couple of months. And it hurts that, you know, like, people who aren't doing what I'm doing and being a filthy pirate can't talk about this for people who are just watching it on Netflix.
Yeah, like, there's something impressive, I think, to Fate Apocrypha, specifically in that, like, they more or less had 12 episodes to go at the, like, 13-episode mark, right? Like, they got that first half of the season out quick.
Yeah, that's why I'm hopeful for, like, future Netflix releases, that they're going to be able to get it out about as quick.
Yeah, depending on how that latency goes, I think that the discussion then changes, because it's, instead of like, well, I can't catch up week to week, you catch up all the way at the end. The content and the discussion is still relatively fresh if they can keep up this speed. And maybe they can, now that sort of like they're doing it more, sort of like they have the resources to do it.
They've started to figure out a workflow, I guess.
Yeah, it seems like maybe they're figuring out the workflow and they're making this work as well as they can. Well, definitely to please people who binge watch, but also to try and make it easier for people who would prefer to watch it week to week but can't, you know, or won't. So, like, yeah, it sucks that Netflix does what it does, right? Certainly in comparison to all of the other streaming services that provide similar things, but I think that they're just not going to change that because of the way that Netflix US treats its audience, right?
Yeah.
Is to try and provide the most accessible version of something and you know, kind of fuck the haters, more or less. So, like,
yeah,
I don't know. It sucks, but I think that Netflix is at least from recent, from recent shows seems to be pushing in the direction of trying to make that break shorter and ultimately trying to make it so that this isn't such an issue when it comes to, these two types of fans being able to watch and talk about a series together. And really only time is going to tell, right?
Right.
Who knows what's going to happen with Netflix down the line? Like, Amazon had its issues. A lot of people kind of decried the price on that, but I think over this year they've started to, at least on the US side, again, I can't speak for anyone else, but on the US side, they seem to have really like figured out the process in a way that's made it like a pretty respectable streaming site. So, I think that Netflix also has the opportunity to do something with it, and I don't know how much that's going to go, but I think like we give it time to figure out what Netflix is up to, and then we can decry them, because like Little Witch Academia certainly took its time, but if they can all be Fate Apocrypha in terms of follow up, maybe we can still have conversations, timely conversations.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see until the Violet Evergarden release.
Yeah, because I feel like that's like the killer app they have going into 2018, right?
Yeah, that and Apocrypha Season 2, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like I feel like Violet Evergarden is sort of like that's the thing that everyone's eyes are going to be on because it is KyoAni, and this is the first time I think that like Crunchyroll hasn't gotten it. I feel like they had everything before that, at least eventually. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what Netflix does with that, given that it's such a high-profile studio and it's such a, it's a show that a lot of people are looking forward to.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll make the end of the show. I did get another question, but it's probably more applicable once we do like the review stuff in a couple weeks, so I'll save it until then. I'm excited for next season. I'm excited for the shows that are continuing, and I'm glad that, we're getting such a breadth of stuff. Like, some seasons it feels like I'm only watching a certain type of show, but this one it's like, well, specifically because Pop Team Epic exists, but like Darling in the Franxx is such a different thing. A Return to Cardcaptor Sakura is going to be new. Violet Evergarden feels like it's trying for something distinct. There are a lot of shows that feel fresh coming in from this season, and I'm excited to see how those turn out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the stuff that's coming out that I'm interested in, obviously. But yeah, I'm just excited for this season because I think the good shows have a lot of potential to be pretty dang good.
Yeah, and even the ones that we're like, maybe not on, there's a lot of potential there too. Like if we never watch Junji Ito Collection, if nothing else, that's like an interesting experiment, That's something worthwhile to look at. So yeah. But I think that's gonna close out our preview show. So where can people find you online, Xain?
They can find me at my Twitter, at Xainzero, Xainzero. I tweet a lot about things I like, which is anime, also Fate Grand Order.
And anime video games, like
yes,
the Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Yes,
especially anime video games.
I am available at Chorpsaway on Twitter, CHORPSAWAY. You can find me on YouTube at Chorpsaway, where you can watch video versions that are mostly just a still image for these podcasts, but I also do other kinds of videos there that you can watch. This podcast is available at Coco_disaster on Twitter. It's available at cocodisaster.com, which will give you not only the latest episode for download and access, but it'll allow you to find all of our older shows. You'll be able to check out all of the different places where you can find us, like iTunes, Stitchers, Google Play Music. You can find the RSS hard there. There's also a link to our side blog, Vanilla Blessing, our blog division, as it were, where friend of the show QB and I write about stuff that maybe doesn't fit the podcast format. And there you can also find contact. You can find an email that you can send questions and opinions to us that you want read on the air, and that's at chorpsawaysa@gmail.com, chorpsawaysa. And if anyone asks, the SA stands for Supremely Anime. And next up, we've got the fall review. As these shows close in, I'm starting to think that my Anime of the Year predictions aren't as solid as I thought they were. Fall has really been a home run in terms of shows. And so I'm really excited to talk about these the shows that I've been watching.
Yeah, same here. I will continue to hoot and holler about March Comes In Like a Lion, among other things.
Yeah, and look, even there are surprise hits in here as well. I'm not going to say that they're anime guitaries, but certainly someone's going to be hooting and hollering about anime guitaries on this podcast later.
I will not rep that show, but I will definitely talk about how stupid it is.
And you can hear me, like every other person on the internet, talk about Land of the Lustrous. But until then, I've been Chorps Away.
And I've been Xain Zero.
And this has been Coco Disaster. Sweet dreams.